So now that we've done particularistic and universalistic values, we can now look at the internal working of the old family, and the old family, by the old family I mean the pre-industrial one, and the modern family. So the pre-industrial family was designed around economic relationships. Uh, People married for maintaining or creating economic prowess. So there's this interesting story about King Henry VIII, who had a very lively and young and sprightly sister whose name was Margaret Tudor, and but King Henry VIII had difficult relations with the Kingdom of Spain. So he decided that in order to create some stability, he would marry his sister off to King Manuel of Portugal. Now, Portugal was the neighbor of Spain, so because he was at odds with Spain, he said, at least I should have good relations with Spain's neighbor, Portugal. And this very young woman gets married to this extremely old man, King Manuel, who was an old man, maybe in his 70s, and she hates it. Ultimately, when she goes there, she dislikes her husband so much that she smothers and kills the king and runs away from Portugal and comes back to England. So the relationship here was based completely on an economic consideration, on a political consideration. The purpose here is to create power, and that's exactly what happened in the pre-industrial age. A person with wealth wanted to multiply his wealth, or wanted to keep the wealth in his own control, and so women were used as the medium, as the media through which this wealth was consolidated and controlled. In the modern family, economic consideration has been not replaced but supplanted maybe by another factor, which is called love. Now here people are marrying not because they have economic considerations, but because they fall in love. So love is a new phenomenon, it's a modern phenomenon, and where marriages exist, but there's no love. So there are such cases, but mainly love is a very important factor in the modern marriages. And love also can be divided into two types. There is what is called romantic love. So romantic love is love which is unconditional. Here people just love each other for each other. There are no conditions attached. Then there's confluent love. In confluent love, you love someone because he or she is fulfilling a certain need that you may have. So love is also divided into two categories, but then love is an important factor in the modern marriage, whereas in the pre-industrial marriage the main consideration was economic, if there were economic considerations. Today marriages still persist without love, but these marriages are known as empty shell marriages, where the couple stays together even though they are no longer in love, and the idea here is to maintain the appearance of being married and to create stability, because remember, the family, a very important function of the family is that it provides stability. So even where people are not in love, they value stability over other factors, and they might choose to stay together. But that does not mean that love is not an important consideration in the modern marriages. It is. Economic considerations have been largely supplanted by emotional considerations. So this love, the factor of love, then creates an emotional home. The home now is not an economic home, because as it is, the modern family is not more production oriented, it is more consumption oriented. So the emotions, and as we said in the first slide, that the main challenge now for the family is to create and maintain emotional bonds. So the emotional home now comes into existence, and the center of this emotional home is now the child. The child becomes the center of all the attention, and the child is now valued for psychological and emotional reasons rather than economic reasons. So previously children were in the pre-industrial age, children were born and they were and that's why people preferred boys, because the boy could go into the workforce at an early age and start making economic contribution to the family. That has largely changed. The child is now the center of love rather than the center of economic advancement or the means through which the family will advance its economic interests. So this change of this emotional family with the child center has definitely changed the child-parent relationship also. When the child was the basis of the home's microeconomy, he was treated differently. He was a factor of production. But now he is not a factor of production, so parents are going to treat him separately, right? And so now again we will go back to references. We've spoken enough. Now you have to, when you are writing the answer, you have to give references. The second reference here, the first reference, remember, I gave was Parsons. The second reference would be Wilmot and Young, 1973, and this is these are sociologists whose work is cited in many books wherever the family is discussed. And Wilmot and Young divide the family into 3 eras. And so they divide the evolution of family into 3 time periods. The first time period is before 1750, and they call it the pre-industrial family. This is a relatively stable family structure in which men and women work both inside and outside the house. In the second era, which comes after 1750, we develop the asymmetrical family. The asymmetrical family is a family where the home, men are moving outside the home and women are mainly looking after domestic affairs, and they are responsible for childcare. So it's asymmetric. Men and women, their roles are completely different. In the pre-industrial age, of course, they were working together. If there was a farm, then the two were maybe working together. But here the men are moving outside the house and the women are taking care inside the house. And then later on in the 20th century, we see families based on joint conjugal roles. All right. So joint conjugal roles are roles where husbands and wives share the housework and the child care and decisions and leisure time. In the asymmetrical family, maybe it was the man who was making all the decisions. Even in the pre-industrial age, even though the work was being shared, the men were making. But here, the decision making is also shared. The roles are joint conjugal. So these are the 3 families which these 2 thinkers, Wilmot and Young, have discussed in their work. So this is the end of this video, but this topic continues, and I will continue with more of it as we discuss leisure and what is happening inside the family in the next videos. Please stay tuned.